In this lecture, we are going to understand two topics. One is the calculation of the electric field intensity due to a dipole, and number two is the calculation of energy density in an electrostatic fields. So let us start our lecture or our discussion of the first topic, that is the calculation of the electric field intensity due to a dipole. So here whenever we are going to derive the electric field intensity or the electric field for an electric dipole, then the first question it is obvious, that is we need to know what is electric dipole. Now the electric dipole is formed when 2 point charges of equal magnitude but opposite sign are separated by a small distance. Then we can say the arrangement is called the electric dipole. So to calculate the electric field intensity at a point due to the electric dipole, we have considered here the Cartesian coordinate system x, y, z, and in this Cartesian coordinate system we have placed a dipole in the z axis. Here you can see that the plus q charge at this point, here at point 1, and minus q charge at this point, and the distance between q plus q and minus q is small d. Now we want to find out the electric field intensity at the point P, the observation point P, whose coordinate we have considered here according to the spherical coordinate system. So P equals to, P is the function of r, theta and phi. So in the last lecture we have seen, if we can calculate the potential at a point, then we can easily find the electric field intensity at that point by the relationship E equals to minus grad V that we have seen in the last class. So here we are going to use the same idea. First we are going to calculate the potential at the point P due to the dipole. Then using the relationship of electric field intensity and the potential, we can find out electric field intensity at the point P easily. So at first we know the potential at the point P due to a point charge plus q. Here we can write q by 4 pi epsilon naught r1. Here r1 is the distance from the plus q charge to the observation point where we want to find out the potential, that is the distance r1. That is the so the first point here is to find out, we need to find out the potential at the point P due to plus q, that we have seen here. Now the second point is we need to find out the potential at the observation point P due to the minus q. So here it will be minus q by 4 pi epsilon naught r2, because the distance from the minus q to the observation point is r2. So here minus of q by 4 pi epsilon naught r2. So now the total potential at this point P due to this dipole will be equals to summation of the potential for plus q, potential for minus q at the point P. So here we will get the equation 7.1, that is q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2. Here you can see that r1 is the distance between the point P, observation point P, to plus q, and r2 is the distance between the observation point P to minus q. Now if we consider this observation point is far away from this dipole, then we can write that r is very greater than d, and also we can find out the r2 minus r1. How we will get that? You see that if we draw a perpendicular line from the plus q point on the r2 vector or r2 distance or r2 length or r2 vector, then we can see this angle between the z-axis and the r2 or d and r2 will be also theta. So if it is theta, then the distance r2 minus r1 will be d cos theta. From the simple geometry you can understand. And also, as we have considered this observation point is far away, so we can consider this q1 and q2 is the distance between q plus q and minus q is very less, so r2 into r1 we can consider r square. That means r2 and r1 is taken as r, and so from that we can approximately write r square. So as we got this condition we have considered, then this equation 7.1 can be simplified, as you can see that v equals to q by 4 pi epsilon naught r2 minus r1 by r1 into r2. Here you see that the expression v equals to q by 4 pi epsilon naught r2 minus r1 by r1 into r2. Now here r2 minus r1 we know d cos theta. So here q by 4 pi epsilon naught, and we have assumed r2 minus r1, that is r2 minus r1 equals to d cos theta. So here d cos theta and r1 into r2 r square. Now this d cos theta can be represented in vector form, that is d dot ar. Now the question is how? You see that if we consider the direction of d is from minus q to plus q, so this is in this direction. Now in this direction it is moving, and cos theta is the angle between the d and r, the distance d in this direction or r is moving in this direction. So in this direction if we consider unit vector ar, so unit vector ar, so d cos theta can be written as vector d dot ar. So if you take that one, so magnitude of d, magnitude of ar is 1, so d cos theta, so d cos theta can be written as d dot ar. Here this vector d is written here, d equals to d az. Here d, this d is the magnitude of vector d, and az it is the unit vector of d which is moving along the z direction. Now we can define the dipole moment by this expression 7.3, that is p equals to qd. P here is the vector which is called the dipole moment for this dipole, that will be equals to q into d. So as we have defined the dipole moment p equals to qd, then expression 7.2 can be replaced by expression 7.4. Here you can see that p equals to qd, so here q into d vector d cos theta, so d cos theta can be written as q into d vector d dot ar. So here p q into d vector can be written as p, so p dot ar by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. So here you can see that by defining this also we have considered that the dipole moment p is directed from minus q to plus q. That is very important. Here the dipole moment, as whenever we are defining the p is the dipole moment, that is equals to q into d, at that point we have to consider the dipole moment is p is directed from minus q to plus q. Now we are going to consider the another case. Suppose this dipole is not, the center of the dipole is not at the origin of the coordinate system, rather it is at the other point, the center of the dipole is at the other point whose distance from the origin is r prime. So here we can easily replace the 7.4 by the expression 7.5. You can see that we have seen in the case of Coulomb's law that ar by r square can be replaced by this r by r cube. So here this r, then the v can be represented p dot this ar by r square means r by r cube. So r can be written as r minus r prime because it is not at the origin of the coordinate system. So r minus r prime by 4 pi epsilon naught mod of r minus r prime cube. So this is the expression, generalized expression of potential V. Now, as we have seen the potential V, or we have calculated the potential V at the observation point P, then we can easily find out the electric field intensity at the point P using the expression or the relationship E equals to minus grad V. So here we have seen that E equals to minus grad V, and the V expression of V we are taking from this 7.2. Here you can see that V equals to q d cos theta divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. So the expression of del or nabla or the differential vector differential operator in spherical coordinate system, we know that is equals to dou r ar plus 1 by r dou theta a theta plus 1 by r sin theta dou phi a phi. But you see that in this expression 7.2 there is no term of phi. So the phi component is not taken here. So neglecting the phi component, we can write minus of, because minus is present here, minus of dou r var plus 1 by r dou theta v a theta. Now if we take the derivative of v with respect to r from this expression 7.2, we can get this expression q d cos theta by 2 pi epsilon naught r cube ar. It is simple to calculate the derivative of v with respect to r from this expression 7.2. Similarly, if we take the derivative of v with respect to theta, then we will get that expression q d sin theta by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube a theta. Now taking common of this q d by 4 pi epsilon naught. So E, vector E, actually this one is the vector E. So E equals to P. This is the magnitude of the dipole moment. It is not the dipole moment. Dipole moment is a vector. So this P is the magnitude of the dipole moment P. So P by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube. So here P is the QD. Here you see that P is the mod of vector P, that is equals to QD. So here we can write twice of cos theta ar plus sin theta a theta, expression 7.6. So we can see that if we calculate the potential at the observation point due to the dipole, we can easily find out the electric field intensity at that point using this relationship E equals to minus grad V. Now from this calculation 7.5, or from the understanding of this topic, what conclusion we can make, that is written here point by point. You can see that a point charge is a monopole. Point charge means the monopole, and its electric field varies inversely as r square. We know the E for the point charge, the electric field intensity E is equals to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square here. So E is varies as 1 by r square. So inversely varies as 1 r square. But in the case of potential, the potential varies inversely as r, because we know V equals to minus Q by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So we know that. That is the observation 1. Also from expression 7.4 to 7.6, you can see that 7.4, 7.5 and 7.6. We can notice that the electric field due to a dipole varies inversely as r cube. You see that for monopole E varies as 1 by r square, but for dipole E varies as 1 by r cube. R, one extra r we have here uh, multiplied with r square. So you see that here E varies as 1 by r cube, but the potential V varies as r square. You see that V varies as 1 by r square. So if from the monopole, if we move to the dipole, r will increase by 1. So finally, the final observation we can make here, that the electric field due to successive higher order multipoles like quadrupole consisting of two dipoles, or an octapole consisting of two quadrupoles, varies inversely as R4, R to the power 4, R to the power 5, R to the power 6, while their corresponding potential varies inversely as r cube, r to the power 4, r to the power 5. So this is all about the topic 1. Now we are moving to the second topic, that is the energy density in electrostatic field. Now if we want to determine the energy present in an assembly of charges, first we need to find out how much work is required to assemble the charges. So for that we have considered here a free space. Suppose this space is empty initially. Now we want to assemble 3-point charges Q1, Q2, Q3, and initially this space is empty. So first we need to move, first we are going to move plus Q1 charge from infinity to the point P1. So if we transfer plus Q1 charge first from infinity to P1 in the specified free space, no work is required because here no electric field is present. So no attraction force or the repulsion force will be given by this space to the Q1. So the total work done will be 0. So here because initially the space is charge free and there is no electric field. So the work done W1, for this we are considering W1 is the work done to move Q1 from infinity to P1. W1 equals to minus of Q1 because we are moving Q1 charge, Q1 integration of A to B E dot dl, which will be equals to 0. Now we want to take Q2 charge from infinity to the point P. In this case, the work done will not be 0 because initially here in this point P1, Q1 charge is present. For that the electric field or electrostatic field will be here in this space. So we need to do some work to move the Q2 charge from infinity to the point P2. So here, so the work done to transfer plus Q2 from infinity to P2 is equal to, here it is equal to, the work done is equal to the product of Q2 and the potential V21 at P2 due to Q1. That is that must be understood. Here V21 is the potential at the point 2 P2 due to the electric field produced by the charge present at P1. V21, you see that the potential at the point P2 due to the charge present at P1, that is the potential. If you multiply the potential and Q2, we will get the work done. Similarly, if we want to move the third charge Q3 from infinity to P3, then also we have to multiply this Q3 and the potential at this point P3 due to the charge Q1 at P1 and Q2 at P2. So here you see that at that is Q3 into V32. That means the potential at the point P3 due to the charge at P2 plus the potential at the point P3 due to the charge Q1 present at P1. So here that is the work done, where here it is written, you see that V32 and V31 are the potentials at P3 due to Q2 and Q1 respectively. So now we want to find out the total work done to move the three charges from infinity to P1, P2, P3. So total work done WE, that is the energy density, actually the total energy WE equals to W1 plus W2 plus W3. So W1 is 0, W2 is Q2 V21 plus W3. From that you can get Q3 into V32 plus V31. Now if the charge are moved reverse order, in reverse order, first Q3, then Q2, then Q1. So for Q3 the work done is equals to 0. For the second charge Q2, it will be Q2 into V23. Here the potential at the point P2 due to the charge present, Q3 charge present at P3. So it is the work done. And the third one W1 we will get, that is Q1 multiplied by V13, that is the potential at point P1 due to the charge present at point 3 and the charge present at the point P2. So here Q1 into V13 plus V12. Now we are adding this equation 7.7 and 7.8. From by adding this we will get twice of We equals to, and adding and simplifying you can see that Q1, here Q1 that is equals to V12 plus V13 plus Q2 into V21 plus V23, Q2 common, V21 plus V23 plus Q3 V31 plus V32. So this potential V12 plus V13 can be written as V1, because you can see that we are generally getting the potential at the point 1 due to the point 2, the charge present at point P2 and the charge point at point P3. So that is V1. Similarly, V21 and V23 can be represented V2, and V31 plus V32 can be represented as V3. So these V1, V2 and V3 are the absolute potentials at the points P1, P2 and P3 respectively. Now the question is, why we are taking charge Q1, Q2, Q3, then again we are taking Q3, Q2, Q1 and then adding and taking the average. Why is that? The answer is, actually we don't know which point charge should take first. So if there is n number of charge present, so which one should be first charge, that we don't know. That is why we are taking, for 3 point charges we are taking 1 2 3, then reversely 3 2 1, then we are adding and taking average. So that is why we are doing all this mathematics. Now, so finally We, the total energy we can, or work done, We can be written as half of Q1 V1 plus Q2 V2 plus Q3 V3, where V1, V2 and V3, as I said, absolute potential of points P1, P2, P3 respectively. Now, instead of these 3 point charges, if we have n point charges and we want to move from this point charges from infinity to some empty space, then this 7.9 can be replaced by 7.10, that is We equals to half of summation k equals to 1 to n Qk into Vk. Now instead of this n number of point charges, if we consider again the line charge, the surface line of charge is taking from infinity to some free space where we want to find out the electric charge density, the charge field charge density, or the surface charge we are taking, or the volume of charge we are taking, then for that cases also we can find out the total density, that is We equals to half of line integral of rho L dl into V. You see that this expression just changed, this summation becomes the integration rho L Q actually replaced by rho L dl. So half of line integral rho L dl into V, or rho L V dl. Similarly for the surface charge, half of surface integral of rho S V ds, and equation 7.3 is representing for the volume of charge, the charge density We equals to half of volume integral of rho V into d. Now we know, according to the Maxwell's first equation, that del dot D equals to rho V, and if you can remember that expression we got from the Gauss law. So now we can replace this expression 7.3, this expression 7.3, that rho V we can replace using the Maxwell's equation. So we are taking that expression 7.13. So here 7.13 we are taking, so here We equals to half of volume integral of rho V equals to del dot D into V dV. So here We equals to half of volume integral of del dot D V dV. So this V is a scalar quantity, so you can take this V in the left hand side, the first of this bracket, in the left hand side of the bracket, or right hand side of the bracket, no problem. So here this expression 7.14, from that we will get 7.15, that is important. How we are going to get this 7.15 from this 7.14. To understand this, we need to use the vector identity. Here the vector identity, you can see that is given here, del dot v into a. Here a is the vector quantity and v is the scalar quantity. So this del dot v into a can be written as a dot del v plus v into del dot a. So here v into del dot a will be equals to del dot va. You see that del dot va minus a dot del v. So here I said v is a scalar quantity. It is uh, left hand side of the bracket or the right hand side of the bracket, no problem. So here you can see that v, if we take in the right left hand side, so this v bracket start del del dot this this a is replaced by d. So this expression can be written as by this expression. So we get this expression 7.15, that w equals to half of volume integral of del dot v into d as it is, that a, that means d dv minus half of volume integral of a is replaced by d dot del v into dv. Now we are going to apply the divergence theorem on the first part of the right hand side of this equation 7.15 here in this expression. So using the divergence theorem, we can write that this can be replaced by this expression. You can see that we half, so volume integral is changed by this closed surface integral del dot vd, so that will be only vd into or dot ds. So if you can remember the divergence theorem, from that we can write down this expression. So the second term will be as it is same, minus of half volume integral of d dot del v dv, equation 7.16. Now we are going to use some condition to simplify this expression. The condition is very important. Now to understand this condition, you know that we are considering that we can recall actually that v varies as 1 by r. We have seen for the point charge. For the point charge, v varies as 1 by r because v equals to q by 4 pi epsilon naught r, whereas d varies as 1 by r square for the point charge. So here you can see that v varies as 1 by r, d varies as 1 by r square. Now v varies as r 1 by r square for the dipole and d varies as 1 by r cube for dipoles. So if from monopole we move to dipole, v varies as, so r will increase by 1. So v varies as 1 by r square and d varies as 1 by r cube. Now we are coming to the term that is this vd. So v varies as 1 by r for a point charge and d varies as 1 by r square. If you multiply this one, so at least vd in the first term on the right hand side of 7.16 must vary at least as 1 by r cube. At least, why it is at least? Because if we consider monopole or point charge, then vd will vary inversely as 1 by r cube. So that is why it is at least. For dipole, this will be more because that will be 1 by r to the power 5. While you see that, so for monopole, vd varies as 1 by r cube, while ds varies as r square. So if we consider the surface of the sphere, so surface of the sphere is increasing, so ds will increase. That means if we take the ds means the area, then one length, two side of the this area, if we take the r will vary, so r square we are getting. So as you can see that the sphere, now if we consider the sphere is increasing, that is the surface area of the sphere is increasing, so r square surface is increasing. So as the surface area is increasing, r square is increasing. Similarly, this 1 by r cube, that means vd is decreasing. So you see that as ds is increasing, surface area of the sphere is increasing by 1 by r square, vd is decreasing by 1 by r cube. So at some point if we take a large sphere, a very large sphere, for that case this Vd term will be 0 or towards 0, or we can neglect this term. So if we neglect this term, then equation 7.16 becomes We. You see that this term is taken 0 or neglected. We becomes minus of half volume integral of d dot del v dot dv. Now we know d equals to epsilon naught e, or before that we know that E equals to minus grad V. We have seen in the last lecture that the relationship between the electric field intensity and the potential. So here the minus minus cancelled out, so we will get W equals to half of volume integral of d dot uh, so or del V is replaced by E here. So d dot E dv, and we know d equals to epsilon naught E, so we can write W equals to half of volume integral E epsilon naught E dot E. E dot E means E square, magnitude of E square, because this E and this E is moving in the same direction, so unit vectors will be same. So A R dot AR, if we consider the unit vectors of this E and this E are same, so it is 1. So epsilon naught E square dv. So ultimately we are getting We equals to half volume integral of epsilon naught E square dv. Now this is the total electric energy. Now from that we can find out the energy density, because if we take the derivative of this expression with respect to the volume, then the energy density we can find out. So here the energy density is replaced by W subscript small e. Here the total energy is capital E, We in joules per meter cube, as the energy density, electric energy density We equals to ddV of We, that is equals to, if you take the derivative of this, half of d dot E, or d dot E, that means from this expression we got d dot E, or we can, from this expression we can get half of epsilon naught E square, or in terms of d we can find out the electric energy density We equals to d square by twice of epsilon naught. As we got the expression of energy density, so total energy of this space which we have seen in the diagram, that can be written easily. So here the 7.18, this expression can be written as total energy, total electric energy in a electrostatic field, that will be equals to the volume integral of We, that is the energy density, into dV. So that is all for the today's class. Thank you very much, students.